Very few brands, particularly those based in America, have the ability to produce a product at the scale and quality of Timex in recent years. As the enthusiast watch community has grown dramatically, Timex has stepped up its game considerably, not only through vintage-inspired releases, which are obviously catnip to enthusiasts, but in the quality of the product itself. Timex is unusually transparent about the sourcing of their components and understands that a good chunk of their audience is craving something either in-house, American-made, or both. So before we dive into the review, make sure to like the video and watch until the end so you don't miss some of the exceptional pieces we have lined up. I think at some point, just about everyone has owned a Timex, and there's good reason for it. They're simple watches and just quietly go about their job. Most of the time, though, those have been quartz. I think at some point, just about everyone. Just about everyone has owned a Timex, and there's good reason for it. They're simple watches and just quietly go about their job. Most of the time, though, those have been quartz and may not stir the emotions quite as much. I'd say their designs have really been churning along as of late, and there's an argument to be made that the Timex Marlin Automatic California is a great first automatic watch. For starters, you do have that Nuevo vintage look with the champagne-toned dial and raised, applied numerals. Then they mix things up. That means you've got the California dial with the Roman numerals up top and Arabic numerals along the bottom. This is a dial style more commonly associated with Panerai and Rolex, but it works well here, giving a bit of interest to an otherwise simple dial. Then again, the shadows cast by the applied indices are pretty swell as well. You can pick up your own Timex Marlin Automatic California for a quite economical $249 and direct from Timex. This is the Timex Q reissue, which manages to combine both 90s Timex nostalgia and my love for 70s watch design. With a Rolex Oyster Court styled case and a Pepsi bezel color, this watch is a very difficult one to resist at $180. And these watches were impossible to get hold of after they were first released, but things seem to have settled now, and you can get them from the Timex website without much hassle. I measured the case to be 38mm in diameter, 44.25mm from lug to lug, and 11.75mm tall. The 11.75mm includes the pretty tall boxed plexiglass and the little bump of the battery compartment, so the actual perceived height is much shorter and closer to 9mm. If you're wondering where corners were cut to make this watch available at $180, and the case finishing is one of them. The polished surfaces are decent, but the brushed surfaces aren't the best. This is a difficult watch for me to objectively review, since it is a watch that is automatically elevated because of its brand name and design appeal. If someone came to me and said they want to buy the best watch available under $200, and I don't think I'd be recommending this one over some of Citizen and Casio's watches. But if someone with an existing collection wanted to spend some money on a fun watch that will exist purely to entertain its owner, this one is perfect for the job. To hear Timex and Todd Snyder tell it, the idea for the MK1 Black plus White was to blend the black dials of historic military watches inextricably linked to war, and the white dials that dominated more formal dress watches worn far away from the front lines where peace prevails. In splitting the dial, the watch contrasts war and peace, black and white. It also makes for a cool design, especially with the pops of red on the 24-hour track, and the lollipop seconds hand, and the way the colors are inverted for the dial markings along the midline. The sword hands feature a coating of lume, and rest assured that the dial features an indiglo backlight activated by the crown. Check out the broad arrow at 6 o'clock though. Yes, it's a classic element found on historic military watches, but it's a classic British element. The broad arrow was made famous on watches by the Dirty Dozen military watches of World War II, commissioned by the British Ministry of Defence. The inclusion of the broad arrow let you know that the watch was commissioned by and property of Her Majesty's government. According to the folks at Timex, the Marmont takes its cues not just from the 7-tier, but the year 1975. And the name is no mistake. It is indeed inspired by Hollywood, and few things say Hollywood in the 70s more effectively than Marmont. But even if you're more of a French New Wave kind of guy, the watch itself is worth paying attention to. First off, there's the cushion-shaped case, which, in addition to being air-appropriate, gives the Marmont a look and feel that a lot of folks don't have in their rotation. A tool-wide, sport-wide diver this is not, though it is water-resistant to 50 meters. Should you find yourself taking a late-night dip after cavorting on the coast a little too enthusiastic, the embossed leather strap sits in contrast to the gold-tone case and dial, lending the watch a dressier vibe, but it's not too precious. So the minimalism isn't too extreme. And because it's a Q Timex, there's a functional battery hatch on the back for an added dose of utility. At 38, it's right in the vintage-inspired, but not tiny sweet spot. Oh, and it's priced at a not exactly whopping $169 and Huckberry is all about making equipment for the avid outdoor lover that's built to last. Because the last thing you want is for your gear to fail on you while you're on your own in the wilderness. The Huckberry X Timex Diver is designed as a functional, straight-to-the-point watch that is built to last. It doesn't have over-the-top thrills and outlandish design features. Instead, it has a clean face with an easy-to-read display. The watch is water-resistant up to 100 meters and uses a NATO nylon strap for the adventure seeker in everyone. It does also come with a leather strap for when it needs to be dressed up. The glass is scratch and shatter-resistant, and the hour hands and dial are luminous, making it easy to read the time, even in extremely low light situations. The watch is limited to just 700 total made.